everyone, Melissa Ullman here, the creative Chatterbox. So I thought this week would be a great time to come back to this 2-page spread. Do you guys remember it? I happen to be the original creator of this project several years ago for Creative Memories. It was when they used to have their CMTV channel, in which they don't have anymore. So I thought I would go ahead and come back and show you how it's all done. I see throughout the years that many questions have been asked about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, can I ask that you like, share, and subscribe to my channel? I would greatly appreciate it. All right, you guys, so this project right here, again, like I said, that I created a couple of years ago, actually more than that, 2020 or 2021. And it's just a fun spread, right? Just so much fun and gives so much movement to the whole thing. This project right here is using the Legacy of Love collection. It's a beautiful natural toned collection, and I have used on this craft cardstock for the base and black cardstock for the mats. But today I thought that we could somewhat reverse it, and by reversing it I mean using a darker base and the colors from there. So I am going to be using the Noteworthy Days collection while showing you how to create this. You're going to need your custom cutting system, and you're going to need your red and blue blades. Okay, and then grab yourself 2 pieces of cardstock for your base. I am going to be using navy blue with this one. And then I just grabbed kind of a variety of papers, and these are some great colors, great for everyday, etc. So I'm going to be using some of these for our project. So first and foremost, what I want to do is I want to decide what color I'm going to use, or which paper I'm going to use along the top strip here. And so I kind of thought, with what I've got happening here, that we could use this, or we could use this. Either one would be beautiful for that. But I was thinking, let's go ahead and use this dotted mint color, kind of offsetting a little bit some of the darker colors. So, and then you're going to need your mat, obviously, for cutting your circles. I'm going to just set that aside for a moment. And I also have a beautiful color in the back that we could use as well. So let's go ahead and use this. I am going to cut 2 pieces that are 12 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. So I'm cutting at 3.5, and then again at 3.5. Okay, I'll set that aside. And so I'm going to just go ahead and adhere these to the top edges of both sides of the spread. Okay, so this is going to go along the top there. And so just make sure, if you have a pattern that you're placing up here that is directional, that you're cutting it in the proper direction, so that you have the width at 12 inches and the height at 3.5. Okay, actually, I'm gonna go from this side. It looks like I have a little bit of overhang of the cardstock here, and that's okay. There's just a, sometimes we have a small variance, and it's on both sides, which is okay. It's not a big deal, but there can be a very tiny variance in papers. Okay, so I have this. I'm gonna set these aside now. Now I need to cut all of my circles. So I have my circles here ready, and I have my mat. So I am going to start first and foremost by cutting using the small circle on the outside with the blue blade, and I'm going to cut one. But what I want to make sure I do is, as you see on this one here, I had a lighter paper on top. I need to make sure it's something, it's going to be this large circle here. So I need to make sure that it is something that I am going to be able or will have contrast on the top and bottom of this. So coming back over here, I'm just gonna look here and see what maybe my options are. The inside of that, actually I like the inside, or that color right there. So let's maybe go with that one. Slide these others out of the way. So I'm gonna go on the small on the outside with the blue blade. And I'm just gonna need one of those, just one. Okay, so then I'll set that aside over here. And then I'm going to need a circle that is using the large circle on the inside with the red blade. And we want that to also contrast with this, so, and the others as well. So let's use the back side. That's a great pattern there. So I'm gonna go inside of the large circle using the red blade. Cut that there, setting it aside. All right, and then the last bits we're going to need is the medium circle on the inside with the red blade, and we're gonna need 10 of those. So those are the circles that you're going to see go across the whole page, the smaller, like this one here. So we need to pick something that is not only going to coordinate with these two colors, but also with what we have here. So let's take a look at our options. We do have a light blue dotted, but there's just not enough contrast there. We also have this piece right here, which there's definitely contrast between what's there and what's here. So let's maybe use this one here. And also this one, it works best if your paper is not directional, because we're gonna be cutting these in half. So we're gonna need 10 of them. So on the inside, medium with the red blade. So let's go ahead and cut our 10 circles. You should be able to get 5 of these circles. Well, maybe it might just be 4. Yeah, it looks like 4. And then we'll kind of then put these so that it's gonna go in between those. So you're going to need a fair amount of the piece of paper. These blades, if you're not familiar with them, have a swivel on them. So you put these little notches in the little grooves here, the track, and that then will allow the blade to swivel once you push down and go around. And so it's so fabulous. It's the best thing for creating circles. I remember, how about you guys, way back in the day, where if we needed to cut something with a circle, like especially a larger circle, we would take out a plate or a cup from the cupboard and trace around it and then hand cut. I mean, this beats that by far. Okay, so we have our 10 circles. So we'll kind of just set these guys aside for the moment. So, all right, so small circle inside blue blade 1, large circle inside red blade 1, medium circle inside red blade 10. Okay, so I'm gonna set these guys aside and I'm gonna set this aside. And now we are going to take a look, actually not take a look, we're gonna, got this. So we're gonna need our trimmer. And our trimmer is designed so that if you put your circle up at the top so it kind of leans on those two corners right there or touches it, that it's in the center, it centers it. So all you have to do is stick it up in there so it touches those two corners and cut. So now we have two halves. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with this one. So making sure, you guys, that if there is direction at all to this, that you decide which way you want to cut it. So I'm gonna go this way. So I've got my two halves. And then with your smaller pieces here, I'm gonna cut a couple at a time. But if you have direction, you want to make sure you line this up accordingly so that it stays directional. But I'm just going to cut, and then the blade doesn't quite go all the way to the end on this one up here. And so I'm just going to take my scissors and just snip it the rest of the way. And that's about like 1/8 of an inch or so. Okay, put these guys there, so then snip that. So we'll just continue with all 10. And this pattern didn't have a direction to it, so I can kind of randomly cut with these. And just 2 more. And then our last 2 here. All right. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we are going to take our circles, and I'm going to take this one and this one, and I'm going to adhere half of the medium-sized one to the far right corner here of the circle. And then this one I'm going to take and adhere to the far left side of the circle. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take out my 2 bases, and I am going to lay these out in front of me. Okay, so let me get this all in the screen for you there. So laying them out in front of me. Then I'm going to take my small circles, half circles, and I am going to, let's see, I don't need these circles in here anymore, so let me move those. All right, so then I am going to take and place 2 of these here at the top, starting in the center at the seam of the paper. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 of those, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere those on the top, starting at the edge of the paper. So 1 and 2. Okay, so then I am going to take the one that has the smaller inside one here to the right edge. I'm going to take that one and adhere it next. So you see I'm going to go there. And then I'm going to adhere one of these. So now what I'm going to do is this next one is going to go on the inside here. So on the top of that one, but coming to the edge of the circle. Then I'm going to skip these next two pieces, or next two kind of course I would run out of repositionable there. I'm going to skip these next two when I go here, and then now I'm going to put this along the edge of this one. All right, so now the key is this, to place this one here. So in order to do that, I am going to line this up so that this blue piece here swoops up there, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these, but again, so that the blue lines up, the edge of this blue lines up with the edge of this smaller one there, and then placing it like so. Then I'm going to take another one of the smaller ones, and I'm going to be placing it on the far left side. So you see that lines up then with the blue piece here. All right, so now the key is we're gonna skip here. So then it's going, this one is going to go next to it. But let's go ahead and finish over here. So we're going to need a piece there along the edge, and then we can just take our scissors, go ahead and turn it over, cut along our cardstock, but then we can use this piece right here to fill in at the top there. It's just a small little space that we have there. So we'll go ahead and fill in there. And then you can just flip this over and cut off the excess. Okay, so now we're just gonna continue to, so we're gonna go back to the top edge. So we're gonna start on the right side at the edge of the paper and make sure that we have the tops of all of these. Okay, so we'll go there. We'll just continue to put these on. So you see there's a nice contrast with both that mint color at the top as well as the navy here at the bottom. And if you wanted to make your circles stand out, or your circle halves stand out a little bit better, then you see that ends almost directly at the end over here. So if you wanted these to stand out a little bit more, you could definitely ink your edges. But I'm okay with how they look, and we're still going to be adding one more piece or color. Oops, it slid underneath there. Piece or color to this. So you'll see here, this one's going to hang off the edge. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to turn it over and cut along the cardstock, but then I'm going to take this piece here and adhere it along the edge here. Okay, and I'm going to just continue to put these on the bottom, lining those up. And then we just need a half. We didn't need the whole circle, but we had to cut one because we still needed a half for the end here, or edge. All right, so I'm gonna just take this, turn it over, and cut. All right, so there we have our spread across with our circles. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this piece of paper right here. So I'm going to just show you, or one of your previous pieces. So you'll just notice I took the center one right here and cut a strip to place along the bottom edge here. So you could really use any of those. And so let's take a look for what we have, or you could introduce a completely separate color. So we have that one. And here is what one of the piece of paper. So we could either do the blue or the rusty color. Let's go with this rust color. And I'm gonna cut 2 strips that go along the bottom edge. And these are each just gonna be 1 inch. It's just gonna be something that kind of pulls or balances the color with that. So 1 inch and 1 inch. So let's go ahead and adhere these along the bottom edges of both sides of the spread. So let me move that up a little bit there. And then I'll just place this here along that bottom edge. And we'll do the same on the right side. Along that bottom edge. Okay. I have a little piece of tape that stuck out there. Let me grab it. There we go. All right. Now, before we add the mats, we have one thing left to do, and that is to add a strip or a color of paper across the center of these half circles. So we could go with one of the colors that we already have, or we could introduce maybe, you know, here's just a solid blue, here's this. But we also have, I have a piece of paper that's green, and I was using it for something else and then decided I didn't want it. Or as you see, I started cutting, and so it's got just a little bit of like mint in the stripe. So I think I'm gonna add that here. And I'm gonna need to cut 2 strips that are 1/4 of an inch by 12. So I'll go ahead and cut those 2 strips here. All right. I realized I didn't grab a piece of cardstock, so I grabbed that real quick. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm gonna need repositionable for these here. I've got them turned upside down. And of course, I'm out of, so we just grab a repositionable for inside. Just plop that in there. There we go. So I have them turned over here together, and you can go ahead and to save, instead of running your tape runner twice, you can put those close together and then just run your repositionable adhesive along both of those. Okay, so pull those apart. Let's just set one aside. So this one here, I'm just gonna go right over the seam of those half circles. covering up that seam. Okay, doesn't that look nice? Really makes those stand out. Then I'm gonna do the next one, and this one I'm gonna start here at the end of this white. I'm not gonna go the whole way. I'm gonna start here, the end of the white, and cover the seam. Then I'll just take my scissors, snip that off there, and I'll take what's left of it and go to the edge of the white seam, or the white half here, and cover that up, cover the seam up there. So you want this so it makes this like flow. So you don't want to cover up that section of it. And then we'll just snip off the edge there. Okay, so we're doing good so far. So now we just want to cut our mats to go on this. It all depends on the direction of your photos, but I found this particular layout best if I placed vertical photos on here versus horizontal. But you could put a couple horizontal, one vertical. You could kind of mix and match as you want. But I thought, you know, our photos, we really want them to pop. So nothing better than putting them on a white mat. Also, because there's white in these circles here, white makes a great option for that. So I am going to be cutting 6 mats that measure 3.5 by 5.5. So I'll do 3.5, 3.5, and 3.5. So you'll get all your mats out of one piece of cardstock. And I'm just going to put these all together. And 5.5 is the edge of your cutting or your trimmer. So I'm going to just put those there. It just means I've got 3 together, so I'm just going to have to press a little bit harder on my blade. So there's 5.5, and again at 5.5. So like I said, you can kind of mix and match and play. Do you want a couple here that are horizontal? Unfortunately, you can't get 2 in there that, you know, without covering this up. And then that takes away from the playfulness unless you tucked these underneath, which you could definitely do that, tucking them under the circle there. Then you would be able to get 2 here, like so. And then maybe 1 here. I went ahead and did, so this one here sits along the bottom edge about 1/2 inch in between. And then these 2, I'm leaving that 1/2 inch space here, here, and here. And they're roughly going to be about 1/2 inch from this bottom edge there. Then I'll do kind of the mirror on the reverse side, or on the other side. So 1/2 inch right along the edge there. And then these 2 about 1/2 inch in between each of the mats with 1/2 inch along the bottom. So that's how I feel it fits best with this and allows this piece at the top to continue to do its flow on here. I'm just going to point out to you, so I would put a small something maybe up here, but you don't want to add a whole lot because this is kind of your like main focal point already, so you don't want to add a lot to it. So as you'll see with this one, I just added a couple of very small stickers to put there, and then I did the same thing down here. So let me just show you here. So my visual triangle goes from here, here to here. So I can do that as well with this one here. And I would just want to point out, so you'll see these strips here. We do now have a white jelly roll pen that allows us to write on these darker strips. These strips are called write-on strips, and they are amazing. So they're basically stickers. So you'll see here you can write right with your white jelly roll pen, but they just peel right off, and you can use them for your journaling. So it comes in like a wide ruled and then a college ruled size, and you can get them in black and, oh, I forget the fancy name for this one. It might be linen for that one, and then white. So we could definitely use the white strips to add here to do our journaling. Okay, and they just peel right off of there. So I would add a very small something here, and then a very small something here, and then put a couple of strips or do your writing. You could do it right here on the cardstock if you wanted to with that jelly roll pen in the white, and then maybe just a small little cluster right next to it. So then you have your visual triangle. You don't want your clusters to be too heavy on a spread like this because of the fact that we've already got a lot going on decoratively with what we have here. So again, just some small points, enough for an eye to then be drawn across the spread. All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more projects like this, my website there is at the bottom of the screen. And you can go there then to find other options that you have. But one of the options that I offer is a membership group. So we do projects technique-based every once a week, and they're all recorded. You get handouts, and we occasionally have some guest designers. So I would love to have you join in the group and create with us. So head on over to my website to see that. Also, all of the supplies that you have seen used here are all from Creative Memories. So if you're interested in looking at any of these supplies, I will put my website for Creative Memories in the description so you can click on and follow that for supplies. If you're looking at becoming an advisor, I can help you there too. So just reach out and I can help you get started. Just letting you know there's no minimums. So it's a great thing to earn yourself some discounted products. And I should say earn, like you do get a discount on every product when you're an advisor. All right, friends, love and blessings to you until we scrapbook next time.